This episode just seemed like a bunch of trash. This whole thing was just trash. Okay? It's garbage. Whole episode was trash. Okay? Fly me to the moon. Something, 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 something. Is how the lyrics go in that famous song, Fly Me to the Moon, by some ancient Earth composer that I cannot remember. I am not particularly an aficionado of Earth music from that period. I am, however, an aficionado of Earth spaceflight history from that period. You can imagine I was disappointed with the title of this episode being Fly Me to the Moon, and there was no moon flight or moon shot or anybody going to the moon. We didn't even get to see the design of the Europa mission ship. Hopefully they're saving that for a later episode. Hopefully they're not just gonna, sneak it off screen, if you know what I'm saying. This is Fly Me to the Moon. Like all episodes, it takes place immediately after the last one. I know I say that every review, but it bears repeating because I'm not a big fan of 10-hour long films. Maybe you are. So we got, again, par for the course for Season 2 of Picard. A convoluted, confusing A, B, C, D plot that just jumps around all over the place. But you'll be happy to know that a lot of our characters have reconvened on the La Sirena at the end. So maybe the next few episodes are going to be a little bit less convoluted. This episode is rife with bizarre leaps in logic, assumptions, contrivances, and stunning instances of lack of reason. In our A-plot, we have Picard finally meeting the Watcher, who we knew was Laris last time, as we see in the first episode of the season, played by the same actress. However, she's calling herself Talon now. The subtitles I saw said Talon, but when she says it, it sounds like Talim. So I'm just going to go with Talon. Talon reveals herself, much like Gary 7, which is name dropped in this episode. She's been assigned to Earth to look after someone who is important to the grand tapestry of time, as she says, in such a poetic way. Again, par for the course for these modern Star Trek shows. We have to speak in mysterious poetry. She's saying that she's looking after, not Picard, she's looking after Rene Picard, who was an ancestor of Picard, even though it's revealed that she was his great-great-great aunt or something. Is it an ancestor if you don't technically descend from them? Like an uncle? Like, your aunt isn't your mother? Does it work like that? I don't know. But, like last season, the show was called Picard. We thought it was going to be about Picard, but it was about Soji. I guess this season looked like it was going to be about Picard. And what? We pulled the rug out from under you. It is about Picard, just not the Picard you know. Ha ha. So Rene Picard is the magic puzzle piece to complete the universe, and she's the key to everything, and we need to solve, and we need to fix her. We need to save her. We need to make sure she fits into the time stream the way she's supposed to. And of course, we get the discovery scene, where we just take a character we've never seen before, assign to her a million achievements that we didn't get to see, and then hope that we are endeared to her some way as the audience. Here's Rene Picard. Guess what? She's a genius. She learned Cantonese, she learned fluid dynamics, and she was a test pilot before she was 17 years old. Wow. Wouldn't it have been a great subversion if they just said that, you know what, she's kind of normal. Yeah, she was pretty good at stuff, and then later on she decided to become a pilot later in age, and then she had a real knack for it, and then she just kind of scooted into the Europa mission somehow. I would have thought that was cool. But everybody has to be a perfect hero. But, not so fast. You're allowed to have some problems just so that we know you're not a godlike being, and the problems you're allowed to have are A, depression and tragedy, B, social awkwardness that leads to all kinds of problems for you. And C, you're allowed to be like too much of a perfectionist and have like depression arising from that. So your problems are allowed to be not your fault problems, right? They're allowed to be emotionally nebulous problems that just are kind of a roadblock for you slightly. That's what we're allowed to have in Kurtzman Trek. If you would excuse the parlance. Renee Picard is having doubts about going on the mission, which means she shouldn't go on the mission. If you're having doubts, you shouldn't go. And if you don't know, the Europa mission has been a mission to Europa that has been teased in the previous episodes of this season. You can see posters for it and people mentioning it. Essentially, what appears to be happening is that they're doing a manned mission to the moon Europa. If you don't know, Europa is a moon of Jupiter, I believe, and it has a lot of ice on it, and it is speculated to house possibly liquid water on the inside in an internal cold sea. That's what they thought in 2024. Of course, I think different, but I have hindsight, 2250 hindsight instead of 2020 hindsight being 2020. 2024 is when this is set, so all kinds of 20s. It would appear as though Q is acting as her therapist, and Picard kind of sneaks in on a meeting she's having with her therapist, thanks to Talon, who has some kind of device given to her where she can use some kind of cloaked spy drone to check in on this therapist meeting. And Q is posing as her therapist, trying to convince her not to do it. Which is interesting because you'd think the average therapist would be convincing someone not to do this. The Europa mission is probably very dangerous. I think the average therapist would probably be saying, if you're having doubts, then you shouldn't do it. Isn't that what Q doesn't... He didn't really sound that different than what you would expect them to say. He even put on the cartoonish psychologist accent that we've seen so many times in media. But this is Q, and he's cute that way, so I'll excuse it. Picard picks out that this is Q, and this is not her real therapist, and I'm wondering how goddamn crafty is Q to pull off all this stuff without his powers. Remember, his powers are apparently gone, or they're savagely curtailed, because at the beginning Picard said he was ill, and then we saw him flick his fingers last episode and have nothing happen. So Picard is now going after Q and transports using Talon's smoke cube thing. Having revealed that this is this character is in league with Gary 7, I'm willing to excuse a little bit more stuff, but what is she getting out of this? She's been charged to look after Renee Picard for 24 years, and I'm just thinking, she should have maybe point out what she's getting in return. That'd be cool. Regardless, Picard's story, in terms of what's going on with him, kind of wraps up there for this episode, and we'll return to that in a moment. Our B plot involves Jurati, and Jurati is taking the cake for the worst character, the worst, most dangerous character to be around in Star Trek. She's vying for that position. Jurati last season killed a man under false pretenses. Admittedly, she was under extreme duress. She got away with it this season, and then she killed again this season. And I'll explain how that happened in a moment. Also, anytime you have her on a mission, it just causes extreme danger. So I think she should probably be confined to quarters. Maybe she should be, as soon as they get back to our timeline, they should perhaps just ditch her somewhere. Just say, listen, Jurati, it's been good, but you can stay there now. We don't need any more hijinks from you, and we don't need any more danger that just seems to surround you. Maybe it's not your fault, but being around you causes danger, so you're gone. Girardi in this episode is sleeping outside the La Sirena. Oh my god. Okay, we know you need to keep an eye on the Borg Queen. Just don't stay in the same room with her. If you're that mentally disturbed by the Borg Queen, if you're that mentally weak, maybe keep a camera on the La Sirena. Maybe, maybe stay on the La Sirena and watch the Borg Queen from a different room through one of the monitors. She left the Borg Queen alone. Does that sound smart? Leaving the Borg Queen alone inside a starship in 2024 in the middle of France? Does that sound wise? She's sleeping in the Picard, the ancient and rundown Picard vineyard. And the Borg Queen gets this bright idea to hack the ship and then hook into cellular radio towers and then call the police and say that, oh my god, there's someone at the old Picard vineyard. And she's screaming, send help. There's trouble down at the old well. And then one cop comes. Can you imagine somebody reporting in obvious state of duress, calling and saying they're screaming and they need help at an old abandoned place? Can you imagine sending one cop? They send one. And the Borg Queen's entire plan could have failed if they had sent more than one. This is a plot based on luck. Okay, there's no way the Borg Queen could have somehow asked for one. That doesn't make any sense. So and because one cop came, the Borg Queen's plan is not functioning. Give me a goddamn break. Give me a break. How stupid do they think the audience is for this to make sense? The amount of things I now need to believe is starting to get to the point where I just can't watch it, or I have to keep repeating a scene to watch to get it into my mind, to try to download fake information. It's very hard to believe a lie, okay? The brain has to work extra hard to incorporate a lie into its mind palace, okay? It's easy to believe the truth, but when something is a lie and it's compounding on top of other lies and other contrivances, it just turns into a big mountain of nastiness, right? And you're lucky to not roll off the edge of it and die, which is what I almost did this episode. It was so hard to come back and watch this episode again, even though it's technically better than the previous one, right? Because every episode, even if it's better than the previous one, if it's adding more bad, it stacks up and it gets more confusing and harder to watch the next one. This is why I'm no longer convinced about the idea of Star Trek being serialized in nature. That is, continuous episodes one after another all having the same plot. I'm no longer on board with that at all now. I'm totally washing my hands of that. At best, you should go back to the Enterprise Season 4 mini-arcs. That was pretty good, because you knew that if the mini-arc you're in now sucks, you can just wait for the next one. However, in Picard, the nastiness is building upon previous nastiness, and it's breaking my brain. Okay? On the merits, this episode is better than the last one. However, Girardi goes into the La Sirena, gets Borgified, and oh my god, we just set the Borg free in the past. We're just repeating the events of Star Trek First Contact, 40 years before Star Trek First Contact. Great! That's awesome. And that cop walks up to the La Sirena, and I pray that the Borg Queen did something to the ship's cloak to make it visible. Because if the cop can shine a flashlight on the ship and see it shimmering, what the heck is the point of a cloak? If light, do you know that the thing that comes out of a flashlight is the same thing pretty much that comes out of a sun? That means I could see any ship right now, no matter what kind of cloaking screen they have on, if we just shine the spotlight on them. And the ship has a spotlight. Okay, so I'm going to have to remember that. I'm going to have to discuss that with the tactical officers, because this is kind of silly. I hope that the Borg Queen momentarily was able to turn off the cloak. I hope that's what it was. Because how else would the cop notice this ship? And oh my god. We know that the cop wasn't far away, so we know there's a town somewhere. How did we not have hundreds of people descending on that dang UFO? Which is what it is. It's a UFO. We're crashing a UFO in a place where a cop is 5 minutes away. With a massive debris field around it where it slid. It didn't quietly just land. It slid in. It did the slide out maneuver. It did the slide out like Troy did it in Generations. So the Borg Queen takes the cop hostage. Girardi, are you going to kill me or the cop? It's either one. You can join me and become the Borg Queen, or you can save the cop. Which one's it going to be? And Girardi, of course, kills the Borg Queen with a gun that she found off screen, and then explains later that she's just as vulnerable as we are. We just shot her in the cerebellum or something. And I'm just thinking, oh my god. In First Contact, do we not see the Borg Queen's metal skeleton and head and metal spine? I'd assume her organic brain was inside the metal casing, and I would assume a shotgun from 2024 would not break that. The lengths they had to go to beat the Borg Queen before, and now it just turns out, oh, she's just squishy like us. Don't worry about it. I guess maybe the Borg Queen from this timeline is different from our timeline. Maybe. I mean, I don't see why. She doesn't look that much less advanced than our Borg Queen. And the Borg have been around for a long time. It's not like they're 400 years behind in technology now, and that's going to make a big difference. Well, no, the Borg, and I suppose the Borg Queen, it's been around for a long time before that. But 400 years in advancement, that's a big deal to the Borg, I guess. Not. So we realize quickly that the Borg Queen had touched Girardi's face, and Borg Queen is dead, but not before she could Borgify Girardi, and now it works in such a peculiar way, because now the Borg can slightly Borgify people and just give them Borg brain without actually altering their body. So Borg nanites taking over your body and Borgifying your whole entire body until you look like a Borg is a thing of the past. Now we can just Borgify just the brain. So Girardi is now the Borg Queen for all intents and purposes. So now we have to look at her as a villain, as if you didn't already. I've been looking at Girardi as a villain since last season. So now it feels good to be justified in that. So it's not all bad. I mean, you have to think that when you're in the past, in what is an alternate timeline, by the way, they mentioned full blast that we were in an alternate timeline. The way they were talking about time travel in this episode made it seem like alternate timeline theory is correct. Previously, you would have been forgiven, like I was, of thinking that we were in one timeline, because why would we go to the past of a different timeline to save our timeline? In Star Trek 2009, Nero doesn't go back in time to an alternate timeline to save his timeline. That's impossible. Because one timeline cannot apparently affect the other. He went back in time for revenge just to see Vulcan get destroyed. He didn't go back in time to save Romulus that wasn't his Romulus. That's what we're doing in this season. We're doing the opposite of Star Trek 2009. Because we cannot get beyond. We cannot go beyond Star Trek 2009. We cannot get out of Kelvin. We cannot get out of Kurtzman. We cannot get out of Abrams. We are still fully ensconced in it. It won't go away. So it's still here. Like a cancer infecting the body of Star Trek. I'm sorry if this is going off the rails, but believe me, this episode is better than the last one. It's just building up. It's just I'm starting to mentally check out here. Okay? You would think that maybe killing the Borg Queen is worse than killing that cop. Because we're in the ancient past, right? in Star Trek terms. We've already messed up the timeline so much in the past 3 episodes or so. Killing that one cop is not going to be that much worse. It sounds insane, and it is horrible. But we've done a lot of horrible things so far this season with the timeline. We've shown ourselves getting teleported, okay? We've blown our cover on that. We've lost a comm badge. We're done. We've also snuck a phaser into the past. We stole a cop car and then transported out of it. Speaking of messing up the timeline, in our C plot, Seven and Raffi are trying to rescue Rios, who's on that deportation bus thing. And they have an argument with each other about who is messing up the timeline more, and I don't know who's correct. They're both insane. I don't know who to root for. You're messing up the timeline. No, you're messing up the timeline. Well, this is the pot calling the kettle black, okay? I don't know. We're donezo, basically, with regards to trying to save our timeline, because we were in a different timeline, and we've already ruined it. So, let's just go whole hog and do what we want. So, instead of just transporting Rios out of the bus, they have this bright idea to send some kind of pulse out of their communicator or tricorder, whatever it is, that they got off the La Serena, to just send a pulse through the bus to disable the entire bus with everybody on it. So instead of transporting Rios out and just telling everybody that, listen, you're seeing things, this isn't real, we've decided to disable the entire bus and let everybody on the bus go. Okay, we would rather kill the Borg Queen than kill one cop. But on the same token, it's better to let 30 people who had a determined destination where they were going go back where they came from in the past. What if one of those people invents something that causes the bad timeline? You don't know. You don't know. We took the time out of our day to mention butterfly effect in the 3rd episode. But we have this nonsense. We just let this whole bus full of people go. What? You don't know why they were deported. You don't know why. I mean, what if one of them just goes back and kills someone important? Better yet, what if one of them goes back and gets arrested again, and then they just get sent back where they were going, but they went back later and missed something very important that they had to be there to see for the future to take place. You want to do as little damage as possible. You don't want to let a bus full of people who already had a predetermined destination, no matter what it was, just or not, go free. You're not here to play God. There's a temporal prime directive here. You're here to do one thing, which is repair the alternate timeline back to what you think it should have been, even though we're in an alternate timeline. So you are technically imposing your timeline on them. You need to realize that we are technically altering the otherwise normal development of this timeline. Think about it. We've just said that we're in a different timeline. We should be working on how to get back to our timeline, not change this timeline so it works like our one. We're way out of line here. Did they think about any of this when they were writing this? Or did they just think, let's just slap everything back together in a big trough and mix it up and call it Star Trek? This is Slop Trek. We're eating our Slop Trek. It's everything. Hey, remember the Borg? Remember Q? Remember Data? Let's just write whatever we can write to force them into a plot together. And it doesn't matter if it makes sense. We just want to have cool stuff happen on screen. Okay. How does Data factor in? Or Brent Spiner playing Data's ancient ancestor, if you would accept that. Soon in this 2024 time period and timeline is a geneticist, as you would expect if you've watched Star Trek. And he's pleading with this board of directors about something about being allowed to conduct more genetic research. He's not allowed now because he was illegally conducting genetic research on ex-soldiers or something. We can see shades of World War III I can almost taste World War III in this episode. If you know about Star Trek history, I'm not going to go into it because in case you don't know anything about it, and I'll be spoiling it. We're going to shy away from that. But Sung and his descendants, biologically or not, are instrumental to World War III. So these directors pleading with him not to get involved with genetic research aren't wrong, really, technically. But that's admittedly from my point of view, because I'm from the other timeline. This is not our timeline. So we're not right in saying that they're wrong, if you think about it. If you really accept the Prime Directive in your heart, we shouldn't really be messing around with this too much. But suffice to say, he's not allowed to fix his own daughter, who is apparently his daughter, although when she asks about her mother, he seems hesitant to say he can't fix his daughter's genetic issue. What are the chances that this world expert geneticist has a daughter with such a rare genetic disorder? I would say it's not luck, but that would be a big assumption to make on my part. To make assumptions is the job of the writing staff of Picard, not me. He can't fix her, and he gets a message from Q saying, check your 3D printer. And he goes up to it, and he gets a Q card. So he looks at the Q card, and it has a phone number. Contact me. And he meets Q, at some diner or something, and Q is basically saying, listen, I can fix your daughter, try this thing. And he gives him some kind of chemical compound that will fix his daughter, and he made it in 2024, supposedly without Q powers. So I'm wondering how he broke into some science lab to concoct this. Is he only a normal human? Maybe not. Maybe he's only lost some of his powers. The fact that I'm not really clear on this is making it hard to interpret. So I assumed when I first watched this that he was operating as a normal mortal being, a flesh and blood being somehow. He was converted into, possibly from illness, possibly by the Q continuum itself punishing him for something, which I hope is how it works out, because it makes sense for Q to punish other Q rather than for a Q to get sick. It's not impossible, by the way, to have disagreements inside the Q continuum. That's happened before. So Sung uses this genetic cure on his own daughter willy-nilly. Yeah, here, just try it. Don't worry about it. Just try it. Yeah, I got it from this weird guy I just met a second ago, but it seems to work out. Surely he's not going to hide any kind of sinister thing in here that's going to mess it up. Surely he doesn't have some kind of creepy ulterior motive. So here, just try it. And his daughter tries it, and she's good for a little while, and she's, oh my god, I can see the sun. I can go outside and swim in the pool. Guess what? They had a 2024 web of drones that created a shield for her somehow, that let light through and air through, supposedly. But it doesn't hurt. Okay, her genetic disorder turned air to acid, and the sun burned her like fire. But we have a very futuristic-looking drone network around the house that makes it so she can go outside and be exposed to light from the sun, but the light... Somehow there's light getting... Because we can see in the drone field, that means light's getting through, which means sunlight is getting through. So are these drones producing artificial light that won't hurt her? Or is it removing something from the light stream coming from the sun that would otherwise hurt her? How does this work? Is this just like a sunglasses type thing? And the air is getting through, and the air seems fine, and I don't know. You think when you try to explain to me that a character hasn't been outside before, you would show them not being outside. All they had to do was give her the injection and then have her slowly walk outside and try it. But we increased the complication by having this drone field around. We didn't need it. You didn't need it. Already, if she can go outside with those drones surrounding her to protect her, she's getting more sun and more water than I get. I haven't been around a sun touching my bare skin in years. Okay? I don't get to go on the away missions very much. And when I do, it's very dangerous for me. You can understand why. But This apparently cures Dr. Soong's daughter, but whoops, it's only temporary. Q, are you going to give me the real cure? Well, I will if you help me with this stuff here. Okay, Q, I'll do whatever you want. I'm your hostage now. If you will give me the cure that's really going to cure my daughter, the real thing. You know, you gave me the first test for free. I tried it for free, but now I'm indebted to you forever. It's like I'm on drugs or something. Q is essentially employing Dr. Soong as an assistant to help him in the past because he's lost his Q powers? I guess that's what's happening. I think Q is trying to desperately fix the timeline somehow because he doesn't have his Q powers anymore, and what he wanted to do was create a past that would ultimately challenge Picard in some way as one final test. But he knew full well if it failed, he could fix it with a flick of his fingers. But now that he can't, he has to do it stuck where he is and as a mortal being. And it just looks like he's doing it. It looks like he's a villain, but maybe he's not. We're walking a tightrope here. At the end, we reconvene at the La Serena using Talon's transportation power. We're in the La Serena, and Picard looks down and sees the body of that cop, and he's like, "Don't worry, we've been through thick and thin together with these people. These people are great." Wrong! Wrong, wrong, wrong. These people are not great. Oh my god. We've been together for like 5 minutes. Picard doesn't know these people, really. Again, we're assigning loyalty to characters who did not earn it on screen. They did not earn their friendship by being together for 5 minutes. How long did season 1 go on? It didn't go on for years. It went on for, I don't know, a week is what maybe took place in that show. Give me a break. I wouldn't trust any of these people, and they haven't been through thick and thin, that's for sure. They've been through a lot of thin, but not a lot of thick. With 3 C's, if you catch my drift. I don't catch my drift, so I don't know what I mean. But they're explaining to Talon, "Oh, don't worry about this guy's body, we can fix him, ha ha ha." But guess what? Poor Queen's dead. And then we find out, listen, we need to save Renee Picard. I found out from Talon and whatever that we need to save Renee Picard, okay? She's like my great aunt. We need her to go on this mission. Our history isn't very clear on it, but I think she may have discovered a sentient organism on Europa that she pleaded with the captain to bring back to Earth. Oh, nothing serious. I wouldn't allow her to bring a sentient organism back from Europa to Earth. That sounds dumb. Maybe what we could do is just go back to Earth and then send an unmanned probe with a science suite on it to study it on Europa. Maybe. I don't think I've seen enough horror movies in my time to know not to bring a mysterious organism back to Earth. But apparently we need to make sure that happens. What? We just assume that that's what we need to do? Also, remember, this launch was in 3 days, they said a few episodes ago. And they say now that the launch is in like 15 hours. So that means the La Serena was sitting there for like 2.5 days with nobody noticing. And also, Picard has the bright idea. He asked Talon for sedatives to put Renee to sleep for 15 hours. What's going on with his brain? He thinks that you can put somebody to sleep for 15 hours, have them wake up, go on this mission, and think, "Oh my god, I just blacked out for 15 hours. Did I get abducted?" And then go on the mission like that's normal. You can't just put somebody to sleep and then have them wake up and not notice that something happened. We have watches. We can tell when time has passed. Apparently the writers can't, but we can. So Talon's like, "No, we can't just put her to sleep," because she has to go to this gala, and it's like this promotional event, this party where all the top people on the Europa mission are going to gather and maybe talk to the press, as you do before we launch. Which, by the way, we're launching to go to Europa, but 2024 space travel, normally you would be launching to low Earth orbit and then stay in low Earth orbit and train for weeks before you eventually do the trans-Europa injection burn. You know, the burn on your ship that puts you on a home and transfer orbit that gets to Europa, and then you do the orbital injection when you get there. So normally you would spend weeks with low Earth orbit training. So I'm just thinking, like, you know, why, like, is the ship just going to right to Europa? Do we have some kind of very advanced impulse drive? Curious to see that, because it makes it this episode makes it sound like we're going to Europa in 3 days. But we're really, technically, we should just be going to low Earth orbit, maybe even transferring to the moon and then going to Europa. I mean, I assume this ship was constructed in orbit. So on-orbit operations shouldn't be an alien thing to these people. But we're going to Europa in 15 days, and we have to stop her. We have to sneak into the gala. But guess what? The gala is so protected. She gets scanned in, and there's like radio communication, constant feed determining that she is who she is, because I think they used a near field, like a near field conductor or something, to embed it in her skin or something when they scan it, and then they have the near field communication to determine that she is who she is with like a unique code, and then they also do facial recognition. And it's a constant thing. This is the most protected party I've ever seen in my life. Like, my graduation wasn't so secure, right? And we were looking for spies at that time, and we didn't have any of this stuff. You just went into the door, and they just looked at your fingerprint, and then, okay, go in. So I don't know what's going on with this. All kinds of technology that shouldn't really exist at that time. But then again, we are in a different timeline, so I do excuse it a little bit. But this party is a little bit overboard, don't you think? If you watched this episode, were you shocked by how difficult it was to get in this party? Be honest. So the only way we can get in is to sneak Girardi in, so she can hack the system to create working IDs for everybody so they can get in. But she gets caught intentionally by the security staff. And they put her in a chair in a security room and handcuff her to the chair. And one of them says, she must be from Newport Beach. We're going to get sued. Am I supposed to know what that means? How insular and small-minded are these writers, where they think, oh, everyone's just going to understand that. Yeah. She's from Newport Beach. We're going to get sued. Ha. What does that mean? I don't know where that is. Like, at least, you know, kind of maybe you could say it if you said it. Maybe you could have said it if you set it up a little bit, you know. But they didn't. I don't know where Newport Beach is. I don't know where this party is. I don't understand anything. But guess what? Girardi was trying to get caught. Haha, you fell right into my little plan. I was trying to get caught, just like it's a movie from the 2000s and 2010s, if you remember Earth history. Every one of those movies had a character trying to get caught. Even Star Trek had it. But now she's not responding to the communicator because she's gone rogue, because she's a Borg queen, and probably from here, she's going to infect the whole world with her robotic, nasty tendrils. She's going to spread around the whole world like a nasty Borgified octopus. And she's going to take over the world. So we don't need the Borg queen from First Contact. We've got Girardi Borg queen. Great. So because of Girardi, we basically ended the world. Thanks, Girardi. Thanks, Picard. Thanks, Q. Thanks, Rios. Thanks, everybody involved. Enough lapses in judgment have compounded on top of each other to cause a complete mission failure. And we're done, basically. I don't know how we're going to get out of this, but there is another episode. There's 10 episodes in this dang season. So, there you go. There's your plot. Philosophically, I don't think there's anything going on this episode. I didn't notice anything. Did you catch any themes? Did you catch any kind of morality here? Did you feel that you were seeing any kind of positive philosophical message? Any kind of poignant, interesting question? Did you notice anything like that? I didn't notice anything like that. Just this episode just seemed like a bunch of trash. This whole thing was just trash. Okay? It's garbage. Whole episode was trash. Okay? Musically, we're stealing the TNG/TMP musical cue when Rios let that character, I think he said his name was Pedro, let him off the bus, and he looked back and it played that musical cue. And I was thinking, why would you play that? Uh-oh. That Pedro guy was Rios' ancestor that he just saved. Yeah, I'd write that if I were 5. Isn't that cute? He just saved his own ancestor accidentally because Seven and Raffi just decided to friggin' disable the bus and let those people go, even though they were arguing about it a moment ago, because they've already altered the past so much because they're stupid. So because everyone's stupid, everything happens in this plot. This plot needs everyone to be stupid to operate. That's a great plot you got there. Great plot, guys. Great plot. So musically, there's nothing going on except for that one moment. Visually, there's nothing going on. We're just in an ugly past with inconceivable technology and no real interesting vistas to view. Terrible photography on screen. Morally and philosophically, nothing's going on. The plot is barreling ahead at a scorching rate of speed that, you would be forgiven for thinking there was no brakes on this train. No brakes on this train. We're going straight through. Can't go around. We can't go back. We have to go straight through. We have to just accept certain things, even though they don't make sense. This is Picard. A little bit better than the last episode, but it's a little bit worse than a 5. I'm going 4.5. Just ask yourself, if you're ever wondering if an episode is pointless, ask yourself if you could have skipped it. Could you have skipped the last episode? Could you have watched the first episode and the second one, and then not the third and fourth one, and then just started with this one? So could you do 1, 2, and 5? Could you have done that? And I was asking myself while I was watching this, and that's something you never want your audience to be asking, because it means your plot is circular and stupid, insipid, shallow, and full of mystery for no reason. That's what you do if you have an otherwise stupid plot. You sprinkle on some mystery, and that'll confuse people for just long enough to watch the entire thing. That was Picard, Season 2, Episode 5. What was it called? I don't even remember. Fly Me to the Moon. Did this episode fly you to the moon? It put me over the moon with anger, but maybe next episode will be better. Maybe we'll get to see the launch of the Europa mission. Maybe we'll see the ship that goes to Europa. That'll be cool. If they can show the ship that goes to Europa and have it look cool and have cool stuff happen, I'd say it'll be second only to the first episode, because the first episode was pretty good. And I was tricked for a moment. I'm Lieutenant Merrick, and I'm going to have to get the heck out of here before I cause a scene.